Susanna didn't include any mention of that year. What could that mean?
It's art, not the history books that tell the truth of the time. So we need to focus on the song, the lyrics.
So a witch hanging by the town.
Just hold on. We know Elijah and the rest of the Landrys didn't die in 1816, and neither did Susanna. We've seen her grave. She had a long life.
But what kind of life, Elle? There's no way of knowing, right? But the song
Is a song, Kat.
Okay, but whoever wrote it, they must have known something. I mean, believe me, the songs of that time, they were incredibly, eerily accurate.
I think we have to go back.
Well, Kat is horrified that Susanna has agreed to marry Cyrus and does not understand, like, why on earth would you do that? But for Susanna, her heart is always to protect the people that she loves. So she kind of like took one for the team in that sense, where she wanted to make sure that Cyrus's attention was kept on her by giving him the thing that he wanted the most, so that she could, in a sense, sacrifice herself for the safety of Jacob.
And then there's the Thomas of it.
And then...
Thomas of what?
And the Thomas of it, yes. So Kat is very conflicted with how she can feel two things in two different times. And one is impossible. It would never go anywhere. It would only stay in this one particular time. And with Kat and Elliot kind of a little bit up and down and kind of questioning where things stand and where we are, and a certain someone comes to town to muddle up the waters.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, it makes things a little bit confusing. And so with Thomas, he represents kind of such a different part of her life and a different, like, catalyst for her to, no pun intended. That was
Okay.
yeah, just a different side of herself that she's still trying to discover as well.
I think maybe it's better to know everything right away. I think maybe like delaying never really helps, does it?
No,
I would say in
not
the
unless
show
you-
we've learned it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Usually gets people
Yeah.
into more trouble.
So you can't change the past. So if it happened, it happened. So might as well know. Then you're not operating on false pretenses.
Yeah, and with Kat not giving much context to what it would actually mean, because she's also still trying to put all these pieces together in her head. But of course, it's like, you know, you get like this flash in front of your eyes all of a sudden going, whoa, because the show is all about picking up the pieces and trying to see how they fit, right? And so for Kat, it's definitely unnerving, because then that makes her think, wait, so something does come out of this, but how serious would it be? Or we know that it can't last, so what does it really mean? And so with the Elliot of it all, I don't think until she were to really, really know what the whole story behind it was that she's gonna say something, yeah.
And Elliot has played his cards pretty close to his chest in the past as well. So a little tit for tat is okay, I think.
I was gonna say something really inappropriate,
Yeah,
but
but
I've decided I'm not
I
going to
read
do
that
it.
in your
You're gonna say
eyes.
You saw it in
Did you see my little, like, no, I was
I
like,
heard
no, don't do
it.
it.
In my head, I heard it. I think that this season, everyone is sort of trying to help Alice follow her original intention of staying in the present and looking towards the future and being like a normal teenager. And the one thing that she's finding really, really hard to let go of is this obsession with Casey, especially because they're never around, and when they pop up, it's like really alarming and confusing. And so Kat is really trying to get Alice to let that one go. But like you said, everything is pointing in the direction that Casey is someone from the future. I think that it's going to take a long time for Alice to let that theory go, and that whether there's a connection with Max or not is still to be discovered.
Well, I mean, what are you going to send her away? I'm like,
I I mean,
He's not rude.
Yeah, I'm not rude. Elliot's not rude. I think that when you have a relationship that's a true relationship where they loved each other and they have years of history, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to turn them away, right? And I think Elliot is always, he's a bit of a people pleaser, so he's going to be polite, and that's kind of part of what drags him into a situation that is ultimately challenging, I'll say, for everybody. Mm-hmm. But also, we're trying to be adults here, and I think one of the things that I like about the show is that we treat things in a realistic way, even in the midst of a sort of a fantastical time travel element. And so, yeah, if your ex-wife or husband shows up at your door and there's no acrimony, there's no anger, why would you turn them away?
When I read that scene initially, I was obviously heartbroken at the things that get said, but at the same time, really excited for that as a new part of Del and Alice's story. I think we were all sort of ready for like, part of Alice's growing up is also wanting to be taken seriously and wanting to be included in these like difficult conversations that are being had about their family. And so I was excited to kind of go head to head with Andy and like have a scene that really pushed me in that way. And when you care about each other so much, those emotional scenes are just exciting and interesting to work on together. And I think, you know, Alice is really like making herself essential in Del's history in a way that Del never really knew about. And I think that knowing about time travel, of course, it brings her so much peace, knowing that her son, you know, lived a happy childhood and had parents who cared for him and all this, but it also brings up so many hard things for her about her own past and her love story. And so I think Alice kind of needed to hear that in a way. Hopefully it'll bring them some more healing in the future.
Well, I think the idea with Kat, you know, her having stayed in the house obviously was her being with her daughter and watching over that circumstance, and now with Jacob, you know, being in the house, it becomes like way too many people, right? So that's part of the reason why it made sense for her to move in with Elliot, but also for them to be moving their relationship forward and growing. I think there's still this thought in her mind that some of the doubts that are just sort of just sprinkled in there a little bit as far as what their relationship is, why she's feeling the way that she's feeling, it kind of all just like stacks on together. And I think for her, it's also a matter of like trying to reassure Brady at the same time, going like, okay, I'm not up, I'm not out. What I'm not saying is like now all of a sudden, you know, okay, sure, our daughter's fine, like we're all good, let's go hit the town or something like that. It's not that. So I think it's kind of like very layered. It's multi-layered. So I think she just wanted Brady to hear like, okay, look, yes, things change. Yes, things move forward, but we're not like, no pun intended, but like selling the farm here. So I think that was kind of part of it. And that was good.
That was nice.
I'm proud of myself
you were
today.
on fire.
I'm doing good. I'm doing a little talk. I'm fine.
I think that both Kat and Elliot are pretty destabilized at that point in the story, and a lot of assumptions that have been made in the past are being challenged. And so when Elliot hears Kat say that, it calls into question the entire forward momentum of their relationship, and especially because Elliot's ex-wife Emma is around, who is so clearly bringing clarity and devotion in her relationship to Elliot. She sees him, and at the same time he's getting this muddled lack of clarity from Kat. I think that it really sets up a kind of a dangerous context that the whole relationship kind of hangs in the balance at that moment, and we have to see what happens. I feel like it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of
hopefully
like
it can happen.
Facing the music in a sense, just going like, okay, because it's almost like that honeymoon phase, right? Everything is romanticized. Everything is like, oh yeah, it's perfect. It's wonderful. This is what I love about you. This is, you know, you're amazing. but it's even the little things like where Elliot is trying to just navigate from the bed to the door in the bedroom and is hopping over piles of Cat stuff. And so it's getting to know that person that you know in all of these extraordinary circumstances. Now you're in the ordinary, and it goes, whoa, like what does that look like? So they're seeing all these new variations of each other and trying to figure out like, ooh, do I like that? Is that something that I can deal with? Is this something that we really need to work through? Or hey, all right, like let's be willing to take these steps. Let's be willing to change in the ways that we need to for ourselves, which is always the journey, is like figuring out self in the show and like where your position is, what you're contributing to things, but also just who are you in the midst, again, of something that is so wild, you know, of a life. They're now figuring out how to be like a person in this life.
And just because there's love there doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be simple. I think there's an interesting parallel between the way that Kat is relating to her relationship with Thomas, which is sort of like, what does that relationship mean as a symbol in terms of like there's freedom and there's energy and there's a spark, at the same time as it's sort of removed literally from our time.
Reality.
In the same way that Elliot's relationship to Kat is like in a way removed from their time because it started so long ago, and Elliot has been pining for Kat for so long, and there's so much built into that. So in both cases there's the actual relationship, and then there's what that relationship means and means for the characters' relationship to themselves. And I've heard it said that in any relationship there's the individual, the other individual, and then the relationship is a third individual. And so there's lots of characters in the room.